it seems like the more people have saved up in their emergency fund, the less they have to worry about what they actually consider an emergency, because they've, properly saved and have funds on use for them.
Welcome to the Your Life, Your Money podcast with Scott Sierens, teaching you how to thrive in life, wealth, and retirement.
Welcome to the Your Life, Your Money podcast, where we discuss strategies and actions to help you thrive in life, wealth, and retirement. I'm your host, Scott Sierens, and in today's show, we're going to talk about questions that we've received, your questions, and discuss these questions to help you take control and make better decisions around your financial situation. You might find yourself in a similar situation. You might find yourself with the same question on your mind and just didn't know who to ask. Now, if you do have a question, feel free to go to lifemoneyshow.com. Again, that's lifemoneyshow.com. You can type in your question and submit it to us. We'd be happy to answer that on the podcast. We also have a lot of videos and other podcasts for you to take a look at. Again, lifemoneyshow.com. Now, before we dive into today's questions, I wanted to discuss this article I saw on Yahoo Money. It was states with the lowest and highest average savings. Now, this was a survey of about 2.8 million anonymous users. I'm having difficulties with that word this morning. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because what I want to tell you is not to get caught up in these types of articles. The article talked about how Connecticut had the highest average retirement savings at $523,568. Utah had the lowest average retirement savings of $300,392. But here's why I say not to get caught up in articles like these is, first off, we don't know the age or the average age of these different savers. The article doesn't talk about it. The survey doesn't mention it. The other is every area has a different cost of living, different wages, and this can definitely vary state by state and even within areas within each state. So frankly, I bring this up because as we see different things in articles and surveys like this in the news, I don't want you to get caught up in this and play that comparison game, because what you really need to do is save what you need for your lifestyle. Now, for some people, this might be on the right track and might be enough. For others, this wouldn't be enough to live a healthy lifestyle for them. So again, focus on what you need for yourself and don't get caught up in that comparison game when you see these different surveys come out. All right, well, with that, let's dive into some of the questions that we've received and go through our thoughts, strategies, again, actions to help guide in the right direction. Our first question comes from Harold. Harold says, I'm still working and plan to work for at least another 2 years, but I'm old enough to start taking my Social Security without being limited on how much income I can earn. Is this a recommended strategy? And I'm assuming what Harold means there is it a recommended strategy to start taking Social Security now that he can take it and not be, we'll call it, penalized for taking it. Now, let's help others understand what Harold means here. First off, what does Harold mean when he says that he's old enough? Well, what it means is that Harold has at least reached full retirement age. Full retirement age is when you can still be working and collect Social Security benefits and not have your benefit reduced. And here's what I mean by that. Well, first off, what is full retirement age? Full retirement age is different from everyone. It's dependent on when you were born. And that could be anywhere from, age 66 and 2 months, could be age 67. You need to look at your Social Security statement to determine what your full retirement age is, or you can go online and there's a lot of areas where you can look that up. What Harold's talking about, for those of you listening in that might be thinking, well, I'm before full retirement age, what if I'm working and want to collect Social Security? Well, before full retirement age, if you are working and collect Social Security, if you make more at your job, right, through employment, if you make more than the threshold amount, Social Security is then going to deduct $1 for every $2 that you make over the threshold. Now, when you, again, hit full retirement age, you can go over that threshold amount. You can make as much as you want as your job and collect Social Security, and there's no sort of deduction. Now, let's take the next steps here. So Harold asked, well, is it a good strategy to start my Social Security? Here's a few things to think about. One, what I find is that people are typically looking for this break-even point, right? They're looking at how long they might potentially live, and then where's the best break-even in collecting Social Security. That's a good start, but I really like for people to take it one step further. And that next step is really coordinating this with your income plan. And here's what I mean. First off, Harold, it would be a good idea to really understand what are your lifestyle expenses. Let's just say that you need $7,000 a month to live. Then it's taking also a look at how much you have in your retirement savings, your IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, your brokerage accounts, and determine, based on your lifestyle expenses, based on how much you have coming for Social Security, what is your income gap? Here's what I mean. Let's just say, again, you've got your lifestyle expenses, you're going to need $7,000 a month. Let's say that you've got $2,000 a month coming in for your Social Security. Let's say you have a spouse, and that's another $2,000 a month coming in Social Security. So we've got $7,000 of expenses minus the $4,000 in total in Social Security. That gives us a gap of $3,000 per month. And here's my question to you. Will your retirement savings, what you've saved up in those IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, etc., will those be able to provide and to supplement that $3,000 a month income gap that you have? And don't forget about taxes in this overall picture as well. So if you don't have enough in your retirement savings to fill that gap, well, then you might want to wait a little bit longer before you claim Social Security. Instead of taking it at full retirement age, you might want to wait until age 70. So that way your income gap is lower and your retirement savings will actually help fill that gap and last as long as you will. Now, you might say, hey, I've got a ton of retirement savings. It's not a big deal. They'll definitely fill that gap, and I just want to take Social Security and reinvest it. Well, that's another option that you can look at as well. But really, again, take it one step forward just from looking at that break-even point on longevity, and I want you to take a look at what is your retirement income gap. Now, another thing for those of you who are married, you really want to also consider what would happen if one spouse were to pass away, and is your retirement savings large enough to help fill that gap for the remaining spouse to, continue to live and maintain their lifestyle? Because if one spouse passes away, you only get to keep one of the two Social Securities. You keep the higher of the two. So back to our example, and I know I made both the Social Securities the same deal, the same amount here, but if your lifestyle expenses were $7,000 a month and one spouse were to pass away, you only get to keep one Social Security, the $2,000 a month. That means your income gap is now $5,000 a month. Is your retirement savings large enough to fill that gap so the remaining spouse can continue to maintain their lifestyle? So one, yes, look at it from a longevity standpoint. Two, look at it from how big of an income gap do you need to fill, and can your retirement savings fill that gap? If not, you might want to wait, let your Social Security grow before you take it. And then the third is, if you are married, look at it from a spousal standpoint. If one person were to pass away, could it put the remaining spouse in danger of, I'll say, being stressed and not having enough to maintain their lifestyle? All of this is what you would put together in a retirement income plan. So great question. Hopefully we gave you some good direction, some good steps to take in determining when to take Social Security. This is a process that we go through with all of our clients, and it's that process in that retirement income plan that we put together. All right, our next question here is from Jimmy. Jimmy says, I've heard you talk about having an emergency fund, but I'm having trouble determining how much I should have in mine and where I should invest it. I'm also not exactly sure how to define an emergency so that I know when I can dip into it. What's your advice? Jimmy, this is a great question. I hope that everybody's listening to your question because have you ever heard about Murphy's Law? Murphy's Law is that law that kind of says, hey, when things start to go wrong, things continue it seems like they pile up, right, and continue to go wrong. And a lot of that is because we don't have, or people don't have, an emergency fund in place. So asking the question is great. It means you're on track of having, think about building a house, right? What's the first thing that you start with is that foundation, that solid foundation. And having your emergency fund in place is like having that solid foundation for your house. So let's just talk about some basic rules around emergency funds, or you could call it a rainy day fund. You could call it a reserve fund. First off is that you want to have 3 to 6 months expenses. Now, where do you want to be on this? Do you want to be at 3 months or 6 months? To me, it kind of depends. And what do I mean by expenses? Well, let's just say it costs you $4,000 a month, right, to maintain your lifestyle. Well, if we were to have a 3-month emergency fund, we would have $12,000, again, sitting somewhere safe, sitting in a bank account or a money market account, but somewhere that's not tied to any of your other accounts. It's sitting there, it's safe. Yes, we're not going to make a huge return on it, but you know that the money is there and it's liquid in the event that you need it. Now, if you're to have 6 months, well, it'd be that 6 times 4, and you'd have $24,000 sitting in that account. How do you choose between the 3 months or 6 months? Well, let's just say if you felt that, something were to happen to you or to your job, do you feel like you could easily find a new job, a new place of employment, and replace your income in a short amount of time? If so, well, then maybe you could lean towards the side of having a 3-month emergency fund. Now, if you felt like, hey, based on what you do, it might be a little bit more difficult to find new employment, then maybe you want to lean towards that 6-month emergency fund. Now, I'll tell you what, Jimmy, I have some clients that, they actually just pick a number that is way beyond the 3 months or way beyond 6 months. Yes, you could potentially have too much in your emergency fund, too much sitting around in cash. But here's what I found. I found that this just helps give these people confidence. It helps give them peace of mind of what they have in the bank in the event that some sort of emergency were to come and happen. And what I found is that the more that people have, the less that Murphy, right, Murphy's Law, the less that Murphy comes knocking on their door. And the deal is he probably does, right? Things happen. The car breaks down, or there's the furnace breaks down, or pick some random event that happens where you'd have to normally go and tap into your emergency fund. But since they've made a larger emergency fund, they don't feel like Murphy ever came to knock on the door. They just pay for it, they replenish their emergency fund, and they move on. And so it doesn't feel like all of these bad things continue to pile up. Now, your next part of the question was, well, where should we put the emergency fund, right? Well, here's the deal. It's for emergencies. So we need to keep it somewhere safe, because the last thing that you want to happen is that you actually need this money and then you put it somewhere at risk, like in the stock market, and the stock market was down, and now you don't have the money that you needed for your emergency. And then you need it someplace where it's going to be liquid, like a checking, savings, money market account, or maybe like an online savings account. Again, I know it's frustrating. We're not going to make a whole lot on this money, but in the event that you need it for your emergency, it's there to tap into it and to use it. Like I mentioned before, and I'll just wrap up with this, it seems like the more people have saved up in their emergency fund, the less they have to worry about what they actually consider an emergency, because they've, properly saved and have funds on use for them. So hopefully that guided you in your question about emergency fund. If you're just getting started, get that 3 months in place and then work up to that 6 months. And then if that just doesn't make you feel comfortable enough, pick your number from there and then really try to stick to that number. Because like I said too, you can almost get too much cash sitting aside and then that money's not working for you, but it will help you feel confident and will help you tackle emergencies in the event that they take place. Another great question. Deb says, I'm in the middle of a divorce after 30 years of marriage. Do you think I'd be better off to get half of my husband's 401k or half of his pension? I like the idea of having guaranteed income, but I won't be retiring for another 10 years, so it's not like I need the pension right now. I will say this, not only for Deb's situation here, but if you're out there and your company offers you a lump sum pension versus maybe just taking the monthly pension benefits, this conversation could also very much relate to you. First off, what I'm going to say is to back away from emotion. There's a phrase that I'm consistently used through the podcast here, which is logic versus emotion. This is a great example for it, and we need to back away from the emotion of the guaranteed income stream. And what we really want to do is take a look at the numbers, because what we could be doing is we might just be comparing apples to oranges, right? We're comparing this lump sum of money to what a monthly benefit would be. And we really want to get these on the same playing field. And there's a lot of different tools out there that could take a lump sum and make it a guaranteed monthly benefit. So we really want to get these on the same playing field. And here's how we do that. Here's, if you want to kind of picture 3 columns in your mind, here's what the first column is. Well, the first column is what you would get in that pension benefit, right? So you're going to know what you would get from a dollar per month standpoint. Now, our second column. The second column would be, well, if you were to take the lump sum benefit. Now, you said you don't need the pension right now. You don't plan to retire for another 10 years. So if you were to take that lump sum benefit and then estimate what your growth would be for the next 10 years, what does that dollar amount come out to be? And then take that by what type of withdrawal rate that you feel or assume that you could take out. And that's a whole nother podcast, but what kind of withdrawal rate that you feel that you could use from that lump sum benefit to create a dollar per month benefit. So column 1 is your pension. Column 2 is if you took the lump sum plus the estimated growth rate, and then at that point, what's that amount times a withdrawal rate that you feel that you could take out of that bucket but make the money last. Now you've put that and what that kind of monthly benefit could be. The third column now is if you were to take that lump sum benefit, again, from the 401k or from those of you that might be offered a lump sum pension. And there are tools out there called annuities where you can actually put that into an annuity to now get you a guaranteed income stream. And you're probably thinking, well, why would I want to, if I could get the guaranteed income stream, why would I take the money out but then put it into an annuity and an insurance product that would offer a guaranteed income stream? And there's pros and cons to every sort of tool and product that are out there. But by doing that, you've now put the money into your name. So column 1, right, our pension benefit, if you were to pass away, if your spouse were to pass away, if let's just say you remarried and there's spousal benefits on that, once everybody passes away, there's no beneficiary listed on that benefit. So the pension then would go away. By putting that into your name, right, the third column that we're talking about here, if you were to pass away, you can actually put beneficiaries on an annuity, right? So now if you were to pass away, any monies remaining in that bucket would go to your beneficiaries. And the same thing with the middle column, right, is that if you were to take control of that lump sum of money, you're to reinvest it for growth and then just take withdrawals from it. If you were to pass away, any monies remaining in that bucket would go to your beneficiaries. So first off, you just want to consider the comparison of what would your monthly benefit look like over time. Second thing is that you'd want to think about, if legacy is important to you, then which of those columns makes the best sense for you. And then third is also to think about inflation. A lot of times pensions come at a fixed rate. And same thing with taking a guaranteed income stream from annuities. They come at a fixed rate. So you also need to think about that when it comes to, again, that's column 1 and column 3. When it comes to those two columns, that would be the rate that you might get for life, right? It all depends on what types of tools and pensions that you're looking at. While that second column, let's call it the investments in the market column, that could be a fluctuating income stream, meaning that, hey, if the market were down, you might have to take less, but as the market goes up, you could also potentially increase your income or monthly benefit throughout your life. So hopefully that helped you break it down. Like I mentioned, we do this exercise a lot with our clients that are looking at either in your situation or that are looking and trying to make that determination of whether or not they take their lump sum benefit from their pension or just take the monthly pension benefit. And a big portion of putting all of this together is seeing how it fits into your income plan as well as your overall plan if you are looking to leave a legacy to beneficiaries. I hope that helped answer your question. Now, if you have a question out there that we haven't tackled on the podcast yet, please go to lifemoneyshow.com. That's lifemoneyshow.com. We'd be happy to help guide you in regards to your question on the podcast. Also, we've got blogs, videos, a lot of other content at lifemoneyshow.com to help you thrive in life, wealth, and retirement. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And I tell you, I look forward to our next conversation together to continue to help you live life today and be financially confident about your future.
Sierens Financial Group is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Sierens Financial Group, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Sierens Financial Group, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Sierens Financial Group, Inc.